in sport mode. I've got the DSC turned off. This is rear wheel drive, remember. And you can actually drift this thing. It's fun, it's engaging, and it's encouraging, which you don't usually get with an electric SUV, that's for sure. We've been joined by a little friend today, red-bellied black snake. Probably best I stay away from that one. At first I thought, not another cheap Chinese electric SUV, but after spending some time with this, it's actually not too bad in some areas. This is the Deepal S07. I'm not sure how to pronounce Deepal, I think that's it. It's basically a brand new model from a brand new company in Australia, or for Australia. Mid-size SUV, fully electric only, single variant, rear wheel drive, 80 kilowatt hour battery, 475 kilometer range, and yeah, lots of features and technology inside. Starting with the design, it's got that coupe kind of profile that seems to be the fashion these days. Has a little bit of Lamborghini Urus going on, in my opinion, especially the tail lights and just the way the whole rear is structured. Very low profile rear windscreen, which does mean rear visibility is not the best. And then obviously this color stands out like a sore thumb, much like a Lamborghini color. At the front, very short overhang, which is great for driving dynamics, and a pointed nose, giving it a sort of aggressive, sporty, aerodynamic look, with headlights definitely looking similar to a Lamborghini Urus. The size is a little bit bigger than a RAV4. It's about 100 and something millimeters longer and about 65 millimeters wider. That gives you an idea of its kind of footprint and where it sits in the market. Being an electric vehicle, though, you've got excellent practicality, particularly in the back, with a completely flat floor, helping to open up legroom, particularly for the middle seat passenger. You do have a big center console that flips down here as well. Just a single climate vent, unfortunately, so you have to sort of divide it between the two of you if you've got two people in the back or three. You do have some controls there, including for the sunroof, and some little pockets that pull out, and bottle holders in the doors. The most interesting aspect about the cabin, though, is this massive touchscreen. As you've seen then, it rotates towards you. If I sit in the passenger seat, it'll rotate over that side. It's quite interesting and innovative. The thing is, though, I might just turn the brightness up so you can see it a bit easier. The thing is, though, it's basically like a laptop. And do you really need, or do we really need, a laptop presented to us while we're driving? I don't think so. I think it's a bit distracting. In Australia, it's illegal to play with your phone while you're driving because it is seen as a distraction. Whereas this is just taking things to an all new level. Like, look how big it is for starters. Not only that, to see your speed, you have to look up here. There is a head-up display, so you can use that as well. But it means for all the vehicle functions, you're tilting to the left slightly, which is not as safe, in my opinion, compared with just glancing down. You can almost keep your sight straight ahead and just glance down in your peripheral vision. Whereas this, you've actually got to turn your head a little bit. But if you're a tech geek, you'll love the functionality here. You've got lots of things to play with and settings to play around with. Pull down from the top and you've got all of your applications. Swap across to the side and you've got your vehicle settings. You can turn the lane departure assist off, speed alert off, and distraction warding off. But like some other vehicles on the market today, this stuff, some of it anyway, turns back on, which I find really frustrating and annoying. Like, I yawned the other day. No, I scratched my head, sorry, and the lane departure assist turned back on and it starts flashing at you. I think it's too over the top in this vehicle as well. It needs further calibration. But I found what fixes it is you turn those three systems off and then just put a bit of tape over the camera there. And the good thing is it's not over the top with the warnings. So I think initially it said your face is not clear or something like that, but then it hasn't said anything since. So that is definitely a good fix, although it's probably not in the handbook. But you do have lots of technology here to play around with, and I think some of it is quite good. Like, You've got adjustments for the screen. You can turn the screen right down as well, which is great. At nighttime driving, some of these big screens are just far too bright, whereas this does turn down to a very low setting, which is great to see. And you've got your onboard storage. Oh, by the way, this has got a onboard dash cam, which you can agree to or whatever, and it will save the videos as you're driving along. So you've got a view from left and right and front and back. And you can go into the files here and you've got all of the videos from where you've been driving, which is great. If you're involved in a little accident or something like that, you've got all the footage as a backup. I think it's maybe a bit over the top if you don't want all of that kind of stuff being tracked or followed or kept in some way. You can go in and delete it, and you can, every time you turn the vehicle on, it asks you if you want to put the dash cam on. So you can just hit ignore and it won't record anything. But yeah, you can go in here and obviously delete any of these as well. Another interesting technology is behind my head here in the headrest. It's got little speakers in there. So when you're on the phone, on a phone call, the sound comes straight through there. So you can hear it very clearly. I'm not sure where the microphone is, so I'm not sure how the microphone goes, but yeah, I think that's a little nifty technology feature. It's also got a cabin camera up there, which you can turn on and off. And the build quality in here is actually quite nice. Now, I've sat in a lot of these new age electric vehicles and Chinese vehicles, and some of them look quite nice. They present really well, but then when you start to, you know, touch and feel some of the areas, they don't feel that good, or they smell a bit weird because they're using cheaper materials. This actually feels and looks all right. Like it feels pretty much like most of the you know, mid-level luxury rivals like Honda and Subaru, even Volvo, Volkswagen to some degree. Most of the stitching is really nice. You've got contrast stitching on the wheel there. Leather across the center console. This sort of soft touch Alcantara trim down here with a phone charger and a vent. It's like a cooled vent. I don't think it really works. Some of them are better than this. They've got like vents through the middle there, so the air actually comes up and hits the bottom of your phone all the way through, whereas that's just spraying it on the back of the back edge of your phone. But yeah, all around the dash there and the door trim, you've got some metallic highlights, some wood or fake wood trimmings, and the seats are quite nice too. Perforated because they're cooled, but the air conditioning system in here, I've noticed, is not the best, and even with a lot of EVs, it's not that great. I think the old-fashioned, you know, belt-driven compressor air conditioning is the best type. And if you look at any sort of commercial air conditioning in a house or a building, it's got a proper motor generator somewhere in there, whereas this, it's relying on the electrical system. And it's not cold enough in my opinion, especially on a stinking hot day like today. I had the seat cooling features function on, which is good to have that in the first place, particularly for this price range, which I'll get to in a minute. But yeah, it feels like it's just spraying out Luke cool air kind of thing. Like it's not cold, but it's just, you know, bordering on being neutral kind of. But it is good to have some airflow anyway, even if it's not freezing cold, especially with black leather that doesn't, you know, breathe that much. And then in the back, yeah, as I said, flat floor, so you've got plenty of leg room there. And yeah, the seat's actually a bit reclined, so it feels more luxurious than a typical mid-size SUV. Prices start from around $50,000, which I think is pretty decent value, because if you stack it up against a top spec Toyota RAV4, that's priced from around $50,000 as well. And this comes with more features, certainly technology. Well, technology in terms of the battery tech, obviously it's electric. But yeah, more features like the heated and cooled seats and so on. You do have a decent sized boot as well, although the tailgate is probably one of the slowest I've ever seen. And then you've got some storage under the floor with a tyre repair kit. What do you reckon? I reckon like an XR125 or something, 1989 model. Anyway, let's go hit the road now and see what it's like. Although some of the technology in here is a bit over the top and there are some glitches, I think the driving dynamics make up for it to some degree. Let's hit the road. Believe it or not, this has actually got the makings of a nice handling car. The suspension isn't quite right in my opinion, but with some light tweaks, it'd actually become a sporty little SUV. I'm in sport mode, I've got the DSC turned off. This is rear wheel drive, remember. And you can actually drift this thing. It's fun, it's engaging, and it's encouraging, which you don't usually get with an electric SUV, that's for sure. But if you're just driving normally, so I feel like below sort of 60% aggression or attitude when you're driving, this is a nice setup. The suspension is a little bit taut, it captures the bumps nicely, it absorbs the bumps, but when you push it a little bit further than that, it's just a little bit too bouncy, like it's springing all over the place. The tyres are remaining on the ground, which is obviously important, but yeah, it doesn't instill that much confidence from behind the wheel. Even so, I feel like this is fun driving down the road like this, even though it is bouncing around a little bit. Because you can, kick the tail out when you want to. It feels natural, and it's, as I said, it doesn't feel like it's out of place. The tyres are not the best, they're Giddy Comfort or whatever they're called. If it had decent tyres on it and slightly more, firmed up suspension, I think this would actually handle really well. You can feel the weight, it is 2.1 tons after all. You can feel that, but yeah, even so, better tyres, firmed up suspension, I think this would be quite nice to drive. It is nice to drive it as it is, and I get it, it's not a performance SUV, it's not a sort of sports focused SUV, it's just a run-of-the-mill sporty looking SUV. Yeah, I think they're onto something here. I think they're not far off in terms of the driving dynamics. The steering as well, it feels interactive, it feels like it wants you to be part of the job of driving, which I think is missing in a lot of modern vehicles. You've got a bit of weight there as well, and as the tyres start to stretch, the weight sort of increases, which is nice. But yeah, again, having the ability to kick the tail out is very interesting indeed. And I'm glad that despite all of this overload of technology, it hasn't interfered with the driving experience. So I've got the ESC off, and it's remaining off. It's not like kicking in and grabbing the back wheel and so on, like torque vectoring. It's just staying off, and it's thinking, okay, you want to be in control, then there you go, which is awesome. Performance is not that impressive, like it goes okay, as you'll see. As I said though, this is not a performance focused model, so you can't expect absolute mind-blowing performance, but I think with any EV there's got to be, or I think there has become a certain level of performance that is expected no matter what, because EVs are known to be so fast and so responsive, or they are fast and responsive. A vehicle like this, even though it is not a high-end model, there is still some expectation there that it should be a little bit quicker. But I do like the throttle management, or the throttle calibration. It's not instant like some EVs, which is a little bit off-putting and unnatural in my opinion. It's actually got a little bit of programming in there that's not too sensitive. Like, I'll just apply half throttle gradually, and it just picks up much like a petrol or diesel engine. It doesn't just turn on like a light switch, which I really like. Yeah, I'm very surprised by this. As I said, the suspension is not quite right in my opinion. The body is bouncing up and down too much. It is doing well to absorb the bumps though, which I think is good, especially for a heavy vehicle. It's always hard to balance, being able to absorb bumps but also manage the body at the same time. So I think Deepal has worked a decent calibration in there, but just a little bit more tweaking and I think it would be even better. As I said though, I don't like the dashboard. I don't like the big touch screen over there with the speed and everything over to one side. I feel like it's neglecting the driver a fair bit. You do have the head-up display, which does, bring that back to somewhat, but I'd rather still have an instrument cluster. That's just my personal taste. I understand that some of the new age drivers or the tech savvy drivers will prefer something like this. That's just my opinion, that I don't like this kind of big screen. It's a bit distracting. Whenever you do anything or interact with any of the vehicle's functions, you've got to turn to the side slightly. I reckon it's better just to look down slightly, because you can sort of see in your peripheral vision what's going on ahead. Whereas when you turn to the side, it's, I don't know, for me anyway, it's a bit more out of my sight. Overall though, I think it's a decent first attempt. There are some areas that really need a lot of work, like the infotainment, in my opinion, and some of the electronic gizmos, but when you turn them all off, it's surprisingly natural and raw. It's be interesting to see where they go from here. Alright, let's head out now to the performance test and see what it goes like. The battery level's at 78%. Ideally, it'd be great to have it at 100%, but I'm not able to do that. And I'll run with the air conditioning completely turned off and in sport mode.